Welcome to Obsessed with Success, starring Russel Morgan.
Welcome back to Obsessed with Success with Russel Morgan. Russel is the founder of Morgan Legal Group and a legal entrepreneur known for building and advising firms with a long-term strategic perspective. I'm Lisa Mosbey, your host, and today we're talking about the point of no return, the moment a law firm becomes difficult to fix, even when everyone inside is working hard. Welcome to the podcast, Russel. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Lisa, great to see you as always.
Thank you. You know, Russel, what causes a firm to reach a point where effort stops translating into progress?
This is something we talk about more frequently than I would like. And one of the main reasons is going to be stagnation. We get to a point where we're simply doing the same things over and over, trying to do our best to improve, but we're stuck in a loop where we're stuck in a position where our firm seems to be producing some form of work product, but it's not profiting. And it could be happening for a variety of reasons. You could be overstaffed. You could not have enough workflow. Your profit margins could be lower than expected. Your marketing budget could be out of control or just not under control. But you get to a point where your efforts are becoming futile, where you're just putting bad money after bad money. And unfortunately, it's not an evident event. It's not something where you just wake up on a Monday morning and you just say, well, my law firm is at a point of no return. Unfortunately, it's a slow burn. And most people are in denial while this is happening. They're just hoping that things will get better and hoping that things will turn around. And instead of being proactive, they, for the most part, are just doing the same thing that they thought was working before, rather than adapting and adjusting to their circumstances, making the necessary changes in our 4 pillars: operations, marketing and advertising, product and service delivery, and client experience. Rather, they're just continuing on that same hamster wheel, hoping that what was working before will continue to work for them today. And unfortunately, once we get to the point of no return, there is literally and figuratively no return. At that point, lending money or borrowing money becomes simply useless because you're just doing more of the same. So you're just digging yourself into a deeper hole. So the only real solution, aside from adapting beforehand, is adjusting in your 4 pillars. And at the point of no return, there is no more time for adjustment.
So, Russel, if somebody's listening to us right now, what changes inside a law firm once fixing problems starts to take more energy than creating momentum? And what would you advise them to do?
First and foremost, make the best use of your energy and make sure that we're actually creating momentum and that you're not, for lack of better words, beating a dead horse. Take a look at your SOPs, your standards operating procedures, and make sure that they're actually uniform and, most importantly, adapted to your circumstances. Monitor your KPIs, your key performance indicators, every one of your departments. And we talk about this frequently. A law firm is a business at the end of the day, and you have to treat it like a business. Of course, we have ethical obligations to our clients, but at the end of the day, it is in fact a business. Every single one of your departments must have key performance indicators. And if you're not monetizing your efforts by tracking your KPIs, your efforts simply become a waste of your time. So rather than doing more of the same, take a look at what others have done to adapt. Call a professional. Your advisors are your best friends. And you may have someone different that can help with operations, a consultant that can come in and clean up the inside of your law firm. You may have someone different that can come in for marketing and advertising. Your product and service delivery is really something where you're honing your craft on a day-to-day basis. It's called practice for a reason. And that reason is we're getting better at what we're doing day in and day out. And the part that most law firm owners neglect, and when I say most, statistically, 98% of all law firms neglect, is client experience. Simply put someone in control that can monitor the life of your client. And it sounds like routine work, but it's these four pillars that can take you from the point of no return back to the light at the end of the tunnel.
Russell, are there forms of complexity that you've seen that tend to cause the most long-term damage once they set in?
Absolutely. Let's start with some of the basics. Marketing and advertising. We live in the world of lawyers being absolutely everywhere. They're plastered on every single billboard. They're plastered on every Google ad. I'm not going to single out any practice areas, but we all know who we're talking about. They're on every single medium that you can find. And that's totally fine if it's working for you. The problem that I see with a lot of our colleagues is that they're using the spaghetti method and hoping that it works. And this is one of the most dangerous positions you can be in. Whether you're spending $5,000 a month, $50,000 or $500,000 a month, if you're not monitoring that budget, not only can your budget spin out of control, your return on investment could be nil, if not worse, negative. And ultimately, on top of the fact that you can end up with a negative ROI, you're paying for staffing, you're paying for servicing, you're paying for product delivery on top of your marketing and advertising. So I would have to say this is one of the more, and I would say most dangerous places that I see a lot of law firm owners hope for the best. And that's the worst place that you can be. Operational management would have to come second. And it ties in a bit to client experience. But if you're not monitoring your bottom line, if you're not having your monthly or your quarterly meeting with your accountant or your bookkeeper, just to make sure that your profit margins are doing well, that they're, if not stagnant, hopefully getting better, you really don't know where you are in the world of your business. And hoping for the best is not a plan. Planning at all is not a plan. So start there first. Take control of your budget, both for operations and for marketing, and understand where we need to adapt. Address the problem and execute. An idea is an idea without execution. But isolating and identifying the problem is always going to be your first point to your solution. Once at least we understand what our issue is and what can get us to the point of no return, then we can start working our way out.
And I'm curious if you've noticed this. How do small compromises quietly reset a firm's standards without anyone deciding to lower them?
Small compromises come in and day out. And let's just use a different example. If you have established yourself as a certain caliber of firm or a certain specialist or expert in the field, small sacrifices on your fee structures, on how much you charge, on what you are asking your clients for your services can diminish your not only profit margin and your bottom line, but your reputation overall. So these little sacrifices on, I will charge less here and there, translate to your reputation is now, you are the person that will allow anyone through the door. And if that's the reputation that you're going for, then so be it. You know, if that is where you want to be as a practitioner, as a professional, and as a brand, then fine. But for the most part, that's not where we want to be. Other small sacrifices that we see regularly, and these are a bit more sensitive, are more related to your work product, not honing your craft. Remember that one of our four pillars is predetermined that your product and service delivery must be the best of the best. meaning you must be able to deliver the best product with respect to your competitors. And you cutting corners, let's just say using AI, for example, and hoping that some sort of software that you've now generated is going to do the work for you, you're cutting corners in the wrong places if you're not monitoring those issues. Now, artificial intelligence can be used as the most powerful tool to lawyers if used right. But if you're cutting corners and simply allowing the AI to do the work for you, not monitoring, without any oversight, without perfecting the final product, your product and service delivery goes down the tube. So it's these small sacrifices that once you stack them over time, your clients will see the outcome. And once your clients see the outcome, they'll understand that they're simply getting cookie cutter service. And if you're not delivering on what you're promising, not only are you hurting your business, you're destroying any possibility of your reputation, maintaining, let alone growing as a professional.
And Russell, what makes some firms structurally resilient while others begin breaking down under normal pressure?
I think a big factor is the way that some firms are structured. Too much rigidness in a firm is not a good thing. Our firm, for example, we operate as a team. Of course, we have structure. We have leaders, we have managers, we have juniors, we have associates, we have senior associates, we have management. But by the same token, our mantra overall is a team effort. The firms that we've seen collapse are the ones where the structure is a little bit too rigid, because this is where accountability seems to lapse. And you start seeing the finger pointing of, well, this was your responsibility, and no, this was your responsibility, not mine, going back and forth because of this rigid structure, rather than working as a team environment and stepping in to help each other. Even if it's not part of your standard operating procedure, you can understand that whether you're a manager, a paralegal, an associate, or a senior, if someone needs help, just step in and help. It may not necessarily be a permanent need, but you see that there's a need. And these rigid structures are the ones that seem to fail because of the lack of accountability. People are blaming each other for the problems instead of finding solutions and addressing the problems. Working as a team will always get you closer to success than simply hoping that the other person has done their job right.
That's so true. We are a team when we're all working together. But once a firm is already hard to fix, which decisions usually make the situation worse instead of stabilizing it?
Continuing to do the same thing you've been doing and hoping to have different results. So those types of decisions are the scariest. There have been some fundamental changes, particularly at the end of last year, going into this year, and how people consume as a whole. And with the introduction of artificial intelligence into mainstream, you have to revisit every facet of your business, going down to your fundamentals, because consumers are not consuming the way that they were consuming a year ago. They are fundamentally looking at products and services differently. Access to information has become much more available. We had Google previously. You literally have an artificial person in your pocket at this point that can deliver, for the most part, valuable information, produce tools for you. And those tools can be legal tools and can actually accomplish tasks for you. So you have to be that much more mindful of how are you presenting yourself as a value add to your clients, with the understanding that consumers are consuming differently. And in order for you to do that, you have to understand that this is fact. This is not going away. This is not temporary. This is how consumers will be consuming from this point on. Once you understand that, you have the ability to adapt. And this is what I'm seeing over and over, unfortunately, from last year to now, is a lot of our practitioners are just doing things the old way. Their marketing or advertising has not changed. Their business operations have not changed. Their client experience haven't changed. Their product and service delivery has not changed. There are so many different ways that you can add value to your client experience using the same artificial intelligence tools that have been created, rather than looking at them as an enemy to your practice or an enemy to your success. Utilize them. There are courses being taught to lawyers on how to implement AI into your practice, not just into your operations, but into all facets of your practice. And as long as it's done ethically, and most importantly, and it improves your performance, and it saves your clients time and money, why would you not do it? Why would you continue doing the same thing that you've already been doing, seeing the results? This isn't exactly overnight. We're now in May. This change started, I would want to say, around third quarter of last year. So we're going into almost 9 months of a new era. This is enough time for you not just to learn fundamentally how consumerism has changed. And when I say consumerism, we're not just talking about retail business. We're talking about people as a whole, corporations, human beings, retail, corporate business. That we are simply consuming differently. That 9-month span is enough for you to regroup, understand your weak points, understand your 4 pillars and where, in which of them, and if not all of them, we have problems to address, and adapt and implement a new plan. Rather than what I'm seeing, unfortunately, on the whole, is just doing more of the same and hoping that this is just another fad. And to me, this is a strong reminder of what happened both during COVID, because people were hoping that this was just temporary. And look, Lisa, look at where we landed. You know, COVID is a massive teacher to me. I speak about it on every other one of my episodes. The reason is it solidified that we will, moving forward, be working remotely, period. Now, that may not necessarily be permanent and for all jobs, for all positions across the board, but remote work is now a part of our society. We're now in a different type of revolution, but similar in the sense that it's a material change to how you conduct business that affects your operations, your products and service, your client experience, all of the facets of your business. And if you have not taken the time as a leader to learn what has changed in the market, you have fundamentally not only failed as a leader, but you failed your staff and your clients. It is your job and your duty to lead by example. And in order for you to do that, you need to understand how to teach your managers, your team leaders, your seniors, your juniors. And the only way you can do that is if you first understand the problem, adapt, and implement accordingly.
I hear all of the ideas behind how these companies can improve, how they can add value, how they can change their user experience, their client experience. But bottom line, Russell, what should leaders ask themselves to expose whether their firm can still be corrected or has crossed into a harder to reverse phase?
Leaders need to ask whether their firm is in a position where they can still adapt. And this is a combination of, do we have the financial means to adapt? And can we train, or I would say retrain our staff to adapt to the circumstances and the new era that is upon us? And if the answer to those two questions, and it's a double question, because we need the means and we need the training. So without the money, we can't continue. Without the training, we can't continue. So if you are now at a point where you don't have the financial resources or the training to continue, it may be time for you to consider a different path. However, if you do have your nest egg and you do have the training and the resources to make sure that your staff can adapt to the revolution that is upon us, you are still in the midst of adapting and succeeding.
Thank you for your insights today, Russell. I think that's where we'll leave it.
I think that would be a great place. And as always, you can find Morgan Legal Group 24 hours a day at morganlegalny.com, on all social media platforms at morganlegalny, 24/7 at 888-529-1315. Till next time on Obsessed with Success.
And thank you for listening. Don't forget to like, subscribe to the show, and leave us a review. We'll see you on the next episode.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.